What's up, everybody? Peter X Coffer here, doing another episode. Haven't done a tribute before, but since I've had my YouTube channel focusing on music, have not had a, a mega star like Tina Turner pass. But hey, we gotta, gotta dig deep. Give her props. Uh, she's a legend, and so. 83 years old, passed May 24th. Took a little bit, but I had to. I wasn't gonna half do this. I took a deep dive and back into her catalog and looked at, listened to the stuff she did with Ike. Really, honestly, for the first time, because a lot of that stuff, Tina didn't do. She did not Bush City Limits and a few other songs from that era, but she often said that, she found that music depressing and did not want to do it. So I was like, hey, if Tina, wasn't doing that stuff, why jump back and listen to it? But I did, and I'm glad I did. And I also rewatched, I would say like this time last year when the Tina Turner HBO special came on, I watched it, but I wanted to rewatch it, particularly, um, to see if I had missed anything. What I remember most about Tina Turner is her comeback and that massive album Private Dancer that she put out in 1984. And believe it or not, that album only hit number 3, but I'm about to tell you why. So Tina drops May 29th, 1984. She drops Private Dancer. Um, let's see. June 4th, 1984, Bruce Springsteen drops Born in the USA. Prince drops Purple Rain June  25th, 1984. And so that was tough right there for Tina because, for most of 84, the rest of 84, Born in the USA and Purple Rain kind of traded back and forth on that number one spot. And the last big thing to drop was Madonna with Like a Virgin on November 12th, 1984. So, these four mammoth classic albums, you had, Tina, she had, serious competition, within a month of her release. And then when as Madonna comes in November with a monster, and all those albums sold 10 million plus. They were all diamond. Uh, there's only 92 total diamond albums, ever from, and you had 4 of them, and poor Tina had to go up against 3 of them. So Private Dancer sold looks like 12 million worldwide. Technically she doesn't get that diamond uh, designation because it must be you have to do over 10 million in the US. But make no mistake, Private Dancer is a masterpiece. Unfortunately, it's not listed in the Rolling Stone 500, but it was VH1 did a it was the top 100 of all time in the early, I think 2001, and it made that, and it also made Rolling Stone's top 100 of the 80s easily. So people keep coming out with albums, but regardless whether it's on that Rolling Stone top 500 or not, this album's a classic, and if you haven't, you need to definitely check it out. So on the last top 500 albums of all time, this is what she was up against with that album. Purple Rain by Prince, 8th all time, and Bruce Springsteen, Born in USA, clocked in at 86. So, you're talking a top 10 and, a top 100 album, she would have had to fight her way through to get to number 1. But hey, love all 3 of these albums, and Like a Virgin, you know not really all that, in my opinion, that Private Dancer is still a great album. So the one thing she did do is win a lot of Grammys with this album. I think, she made up with it with the Grammys. I think she won more Grammys than, I'm not than Springsteen. I don't think went ever showed up for the Grammys, so he doesn't have the Grammy. But she won more Grammys than Prince or Madonna. For Like a Virgin and Purple Rain. So she kind of made up for it there. And hey, I mean, great is great. And we're talking rarefied air here. So what she win? Better Be Good to Me, best rock vocal performance in the '85 Grammys. And What's Love Got to Do with it was best female rock vocal performance, record of the year, and song of the year. So hey, I mean, and What's Love Got to Do with it? I should have looked that up because I'm pretty sure that's, on their top Rolling Stones top songs of all time. And you know what? I think I'm gonna give that a look. Uh, but yeah, so that's I mean that's this album is loaded. And interestingly enough, I was on um after she passed, a couple of the songs charted again, and at least none of them charted from what I could see on Spotify. But it's interesting because sometimes when artists pass, and I don't know what Tidal does, but they chart on spot and sometimes chart on Tidal. And the only song that charted on the album back on there was "Private Dancer" by the title track, which is. I mean, as much as I love What's Good Love Got to Do with it, it's probably, that the monster track in the album, but man, Private Dancer is something else too. And it did chart again when she passed. Yep, just checked. So What's Love Got to Do with it? 134 on the 500 best songs of all time from Tina Turner. So hey, this album is hitting. Um There's a lot going on with this album, and what a comeback! So, here's the chart positions. Let's Stay Together hit 26, remake of the Great Al Green song. What's Love Got to Do with it hit number one. Better Be Good to Me hit number five, and that's sort of her anthem of kind of her coming, her post Ike, so to speak. And then Private Dancer hit seven. Also checked. Uh, we Don't Need Another Hero off the soundtrack from Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. That hit number two. So yeah, so that's kind of where she's going. So I'm gonna switch it up a little because what I have done in the past, before I started the channel, when you had a legend pass, I would do my favorite songs. I used to put this on Facebook, but now hey, my Facebook post goes here. So, my top Tina Turner songs of all time. What's Love Got to Do with it? Obviously. We Don't Need to Love Another Hero. Those are my top two. Private Dancers, three. One of the Living. That's one of the songs that's kind of fallen off a little. It did get some airplay and it did chart. It did hit the top 40. I mean, it never got in the top 10. That was the other big cut that she had on the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But check that out. It's sort of has a similar structure, more of an anthem than We Don't Need Another Hero. But that song is definitely hitting. Better Be Good to Me. That's also on my list. The best, I Can't Stand the Rain. Uh, Something Beautiful Remains, and Something Special. So those are the my top 10 Tina. Now, one of the things that Tina was very good at throughout her career was um, doing covers of other people's songs. Usually, but she was the master. I mean, Proud Mary, she really had a big hit off that when she was with Ike. But she did that often and with great success. Back to Private Dancer. So recorded the album in 2 weeks, which is pretty amazing. That's a, you know, that's that's some really good work to put in 2 weeks. Um, yeah. Now looking at Itina, yeah. So she did the book Itina with Kurt Loder, dealing with her marriage with Ike. Um, and she did not want that abuse to define who she was. And that also came through in Tina, that HBO documentary. And it's one reason why I wanted to go back and watch that before doing this episode, because she really fought back and, pushed back, and she thought the book and the movie would put it to rest. But and I think part of the reason why that was such a focal point for a lot of people is, she was one of the first famous people to really talk about abuse. I mean, when she came out in 80, 84, 85 and talked about that, nobody had done that before. And obviously, she wasn't the first to deal with that type of abuse. And so, but Tina being Tina and the strong woman she was, she took that and it became part of her brand, but it didn't define her. I mean, her energy and her music and her incredible live performance skills ended up being what defined her. Tina had a pretty rough upbringing. She was abandoned by both of her parents, and her mother was the last to leave, and so I think she was raised by her grandparents. She very poor. She picked cotton, and her parents picked cotton. And then towards the end of high school, she went to stay with her mother in St. Louis, and that's where she met Ike. She talked in the HBO documentary about, my mom never really showed love, and I'm not sure if she really loved me, but she was still my mother, and bought her a house and was good to her. Interesting, very. And the lack of trust, her parents and then Ike, and how that affected her. Um, yeah, I mean, so she overcame a lot, and I think that's the power of Tina. She overcame so much, and then later in life, she found the love of her life and got to experience some of that love. So Tina made it in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice with Ike years ago, and then made it as a solo artist in 2021, which I think it's unfortunate it took that long. I'm glad she was alive when she made it in, but come on, I mean, 2021, um, whatever. Um, but going back, what really struck me with Tina was how good of a performer she was. I mean, she was in her mid 20s and early 70s, and she was, man, could she perform? And you see the energy. I mean, she was right there with James Brown, in the early 70s as far as great performance. Uh, you know, her voice. I mean, her voice was always amazing, but it was particularly amazing back then. And I really was struck by the comfort level, and the rapport she had with the audience. She would talk to them a lot and tell stories, and she had the audience eating out of her hand. So between her dancing ability, her energy, uh, the pipes. I mean, boy, she could sing back then, and I mean, she was beautiful on top of it. I mean, I mean, you got to put her in there as one of the top 20, 25, best performing artists. ever. I mean, she performed all the way until age 69. I think 2019 was, 2009 was her last tour, but man, she was good. So, Tina passes. I mean, there was rumors out there that she wasn't in the best of health. One of the other beautiful things about Tina is she raised the four boys. Two of them were Ike's, before they got together, from another marriage, and she raised them as her own. So even though, you know, Ike was, a terrible abusive husband, she loved those boys regardless. And, you know, man, just love being a mother, and you gotta give her props for that. So Tina passes, and the ultimate branding, the queen of rock and roll. This didn't happen until after she passed, and I think, it was planned, and everybody just, I'm sure that's what the press release said, and everybody else ran with it. I mean, all, New York Times, Washington Post, Time, Newsweek, but hey, I mean, Tina did not want to be remembered as, the abused woman. She put in the work, and it fits, and and no one protested. So, I mean, yeah, Janis Joplin, loved Janis Joplin, but she was, on the scene for 4 or 5 years. And remember, I mean, Tina's 1960, 1961, and is on the scene for 50 years. That's why she's the queen of rock and roll. Love Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart, but again, the 70s and 80s, you know, most of their, that's where they had their hits. Tina's hits are longer, and Tina was selling out stadiums well into the 2000s. Nothing against Heart; they were still selling out, arenas and doing very well. But Tina has the years on them. Pat Benatar, again, the 70s and late 70s and 80s, most of her hits. She, I don't know what she's, she hasn't been active, but I'm just talking about folks who, could have made, a claim to the queen of rock and roll. And then one of my all-time favorites, Stevie Nicks. Um, Fleetwood Mac, and off and on, but Fleetwood Mac, when's the last time they've done an album? I mean, they haven't really, hit hard. They've been mostly a touring act for, since the 90s. And she had most of her solo success in the 80s as well. So, Tina fits the bill. Her people grabbed that mantle, and good, because it was there, and it was open, and the crown fits. And 50 years in the game of rock and roll, you know the reason probably why Ike gets in there with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Tina is that I think Rocket '98 is that's considered the first rock and roll song, and I think that was '58 or something like that. I don't know, or no, whatever. But he's credited with having one of the first rock and roll songs. Tina was front and center with Ike, and Tina, and she got in twice. It is, I'm glad she was alive and she got in 2021, but that should have happened earlier. So, legendary, one of my all-time favorite artists. When I have levels of greatness when it comes to artists, and that very top level are people for me that transcend even their art, and are just iconic, in how they live their lives, and Tina's there. um so she's one of the few, and I've always loved her music, post Private Dancer. I mean, that's kind of when I got, you know coming of age, and that's a huge album for me, remembering when it dropped, and you know just the effect it had on me, and I mean, she's a leader and a hero to a lot of women. I mean, she's Beyonce before Beyonce, and TLC before TLC, and then, in some ways, Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift. They all take things from Tina, in their own brands. And I know, Beyonce's mentioned that, Tina's one of her heroes. So yeah, I had to do this, had to, finally, but I didn't want to rush this because I wanted to do it right because she deserves, I mean, she's a legend and deserves a proper tribute show. So yes, Tina Turner, Queen of Rock and Roll, well deserved. Um, she wrote a second book, and that's something that I want to put on. I saw the movie with Ike. I don't need to, but her second act is even to me more impressive and more important, and I think more interesting. Because she told us enough. With her time with Ike, but I mean, she came, post Private Dancer. I mean, she just, she's like a Roman army and just went around the world touring and conquered the world, so to speak. So that is the one and only Tina Turner. So thank you for coming through. Appreciate it. I got two science fiction fantasy books on Amazon and a novella, and I have 5 albums on all the streaming services, and you can also access them here on my channel. My latest one, the 317 Volume 2, I have what do you call that? I did a list of it. For some reason, it still is not hooked up. I went back and CD Baby looked at what, so I forgot one thing, but my name and everything else is there. But it has not linked up to my first 4, but it is here uh, in the list, and it's on it is linked up with everybody but YouTube. So check out my music. I'm working on a couple of singles and a right now it's a EP, but it could end up being an LP. You just like, and things. The creative juices keep flowing, but as of right now, it's an EP. So I appreciate y'all, I really do, and I'm gonna keep doing this. Really enjoy this, and I'll see you next episode.